Hello and welcome to this lesson. Today we're going to be talking about note value, and within the context of this lesson, note value will be an evaluation of the different subdivisions of the whole note that we can use as drummers to basically make our drumming more interesting and not so linear as far as dividing everything into two. So if you have the whole note, you go into the quarter note, 8 notes and 16 notes. We're gonna start approaching the things that you might find in the middle. There are triplet bass, such as the 8-note triplet and the 16-note triplet, and leading all the way up to 32nd notes. And the most difficult part of this is transitioning back and forth between these different note values while maintaining steady time. And you'll find, as you practice these on your own, that there is certainly a challenge in here. There's definitely an opportunity for growth. So what we're going to start doing is kind of like explaining how this works, how to subdivide everything between the whole note and the 32nd notes with everything that's divisible by 2 or 3. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with a fairly slow tempo. We're going to start playing the whole note. Then we're going to go into half notes, quarter notes, 8 notes, 8-note triplets, 16 notes, 16-note triplet, and 32nd notes. I'm going to be using single stroke roll for these, and I'm going to be doing 1 bar per note value. Okay, so here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So there we had it. We had every note value between whole note and 32nd notes. So the meat and potato of this exercise is in transitioning between the different note values at a predetermined time. The best approach for this, I think, is to actually transition from one note value to the next by each bar. So you play 1 bar of quarter notes, for example, then the next bar, starting on beat 1, you're going to start playing the 8-note triplet, then the next subdivision. Okay, so with that in mind, the faster the tempo becomes, the smaller subdivisions, such as the 16-note triplet and the 32nd notes, are going to become harder and harder to perform correctly. And one of the challenges that you're going to encounter if you're using single stroke roll for 32nd notes or 16-note triplets is that the hands are alternating so quickly back and forth between right and left that there is very little structure. The structure is very small, so it's very easy to get lost. And if you have, for example, a 4/4 bar and you're playing 32nd notes, okay, and you're using single stroke roll, there should be 32 strokes in that measure, and beat 1 of the next measure should be the 33rd stroke. Not one more, not one less. And it's going to be hard to keep everything and keep track of everything and make sure that you're only hitting 32 strokes during that bar. Okay, so what some people do, what I like to do, is to actually use some kind of a rudiment or some kind of a stick combination that allows you to more clearly determine the structure that you're using for the pattern. I kind of like to explain these. If, for example, for the 16-note triplet, you have the 4 beats of 4/4 measure. You have the 4 beats. Well, each beat is subdivided into 6, right? So you have a total of 24 strokes in a measure of 4/4 if you're doing 16-note triplets. So you have 4 groups of 6. Now you can use any of the rudiments that have 6 strokes to do this, and it'll give you structure, and you'll make sure that you're hitting exactly the right amount of strokes. For example, you could use the paradiddle-diddle, or you could use the double paradiddle. Either one of those 2 rudiments will have 6 strokes, okay, per beat. So that way you can easily use this for the 16-note triplet and make sure that you're hitting the right amount of strokes. Okay, along the same lines with the rudimental technique And this exercise, even if you're using single stroke roll, if you feel that you have a pretty good command of single stroke roll, you're more than welcome to use it for the 30-second notes and 60-note triplet. But as the tempo starts to speed up, you're going to encounter the challenge of speed. So you're only going to be able to play this exercise as fast as your single stroke roll is. Okay, so if you can only go at this speed, then that's going to be the limit of how fast you can play the exercise. So that means the 30-second note, the smallest subdivision of the exercise, that's the fastest it can ever be, because you cannot play it any faster than that. So if that's my beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 30-second note. Okay, so if you want to play at this speed instead, a little faster, now you need to be able to play the 30-second note at this speed. Alright, so based on these, you can see where there is room for growth as far as your single stroke rudiment is. And this is why rudimental drumming is so important. It's not just so that you can show off, oh yeah, I can do single stroke roll or doubles or whatever. This is about giving you the skills that you're going to need to do anything that you want to do on the drum set. So right now, if you haven't been practicing your single stroke roll, you're going to encounter a limitation pretty quickly on this exercise, because you're going to have to be playing very slow patterns like these. That's very slow. That's like 60 beats per minute or so. Okay, so you want to be shooting for more like an 80 to 100 beats per minute range on these, and that's going to be very fast for 30-second notes. So you need to get up to speed with your single stroke roll or a different rudiment. Some people really like to use the double stroke roll. So okay, so that allows you to go very fast. So instead of having like a 1, 2, 3, 4, very slow tempo, about 60 beats per minute, you can speed it up to about 100. Even faster. Okay? Alright, so enough talk. Now let's go ahead and see how we're going to apply this exercise. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick a drum beat, okay, an easy one at first, okay, just a very simple straight rock beat like this. If you want to, you can add some more complex bass drums. But at the very least, just a simple rock beat. And you're going to play 4 bars of this. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. Okay, so that was 4 bars. And now here comes the exercise. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to play 1 bar of 8 notes. We're going to start our exercise at the 8th note level. Okay, so we're not going to start at whole notes for fills. We're going to start at the 8th note level. We're going to go to the 8th note, 8th note triplet, 16 notes, 16 note triplets, and 30-second notes, okay? And we're going to play 1 bar of each. So, at first, to make it simpler and to be able to just concentrate on the beat, okay, on the timing, and on playing the subdivisions correctly, I'm only going to play it on the snare. I'm not going to throw sticks out to the toms or anything like that. At first, I'm only going to do snare, okay? So check it out. Sounds like this.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2,
and so on.
3.
And now at that point you would just repeat it and continue to repeat it. the idea is to really get those transitions between one subdivision and the next very smoothly, and for the tempo to not change. So it's going to be key that you're using a metronome for these, okay? And I recommend to have it set at quarter note intervals, because if you have it set for 8 notes, then when you play the 8 note triplet, it's going to sound very weird and it might throw you off. So just set it for quarter notes, and then you're going to fill in the subdivisions, okay? So again, that's the first example. That's what I want you to focus on for a little while, okay? So at least, you know, the first couple of sessions where you're practicing these, just play it on the snare, okay? Now, the idea with this exercise is to progress towards improvising on the drum set within the same guidelines that I just told you. So the only difference between what we just did and the end result of the exercise is that what I want you to do actually eventually is, instead of playing it all on the snare, I want you to move around the drum set and improvise over these subdivisions, okay? So the next exercise that we're going to do leading towards that end result is to actually start doing, we're going to do 1 bar on the snare, okay? So we're going to play the 8 notes on the snare, the 8 note triplet on tom 1, the 16 note on tom 2, okay? Then the 16 note triplet on the floor tom, and then back to the snare for the 32nd notes, okay? So it sounds like this.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
And so on. So again, you play the four bars of drum beat, and then you play a measure of 8 notes on the snare, a measure of 8 note triplets on tom 1, a measure of 16 notes on tom 2, a measure of 16 note triplets on the floor tom, and then back to the snare for the 32nd notes, okay? Now finally, once you get that down, now you're going to be in a much better position to improvise all over the drum set, because you're going to be able to move from one drum to another during the exercise. And eventually this is what it's supposed to sound like. So I'm going to play 4 bars of time, okay, so 4 bars of drum beat, and then I'm going to go into the exercise. And the exercise is, remember, just playing the subdivisions, transitioning from one bar to the next. But I'm going to move around the drums. I'm going to play different drums, hit some cymbals, some hi-hats. I'm going to be using some different stick combinations, not just single stroke roll. I'm going to be using some bass drum, just kind of like improvising. And this exercise is great because it has 2 purposes. First, it'll fine-tune your skills for playing all the different subdivisions. And then second, it's also going to help you with your creativity for coming up with fills, being able to solo, and all these other things, because it puts you on the spot on the fact that you have to improvise every time you do the exercise, okay? So here's some examples of what I would do. But again, this is improvisation, so this is where your style is going to come out, and you're going to play what you like to play within the guidelines that I already established, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what it sounds like.